The Frog Band and the Onion Seller by Jim Smith. Once upon a time, there lived in a tumble-down chateau the Duc de Buffle. He was very aristocratic, and like all aristocratic dukes who live in tumble-down chateaux, he was very poor. One day he was up in the attics looking for something of value he could sell. All he was able to find was a piece of parchment and a rusty key in the bottom of a trunk, under some old books. This wasn't surprising, as he had searched the attics almost every day for years. He was about to throw the parchment away in disgust, when to his amazement he saw it was a map, showing a large house in England and directions to a hidden casket containing treasure. The Duke could hardly believe his eyes. With great excitement, the Duke rushed downstairs, too thrilled to notice the nail on the stair treads. "Yow!" he cried, and hobbled painfully to his bedroom. As he sat on his bed, bandaging his foot, he decided on a plan of action. He was too old to go off across the sea on a treasure hunt, and besides, his foot hurt. So he realized he would have to enlist the help of that eminent detective, Alphonse le flic. Alphonse came immediately and took down all the details in his pocketbook. As soon as he had said au revoir to the Duke, he dived behind a nearby bush and reappeared disguised as a typical French onion seller, complete with bicycle and onions. He crossed the channel, heading for Winklesea, with his bicycle strapped securely to the top of his submarine. When land was in sight, he made for the pier, and having tied up his submarine, he set foot, unnoticed, on English soil. He looked at his map and set off, wondering as he wobbled along on the wrong side of the road why everyone was shouting at him. As he swung round a corner, a lorry load of frogs swerved to avoid him and landed up in a fruit barrow. Alphonse pedaled swiftly on, leaving the angry frogs behind. Unbeknownst to Alphonse, the frogs belonged to the Frog Band, who were due to play on the seafront. As Alphonse pedaled into the distance, they picked themselves up and went on their way, muttering dire threats if they ever saw the French frog again. "I'll clash him between my cymbals. I'll give him such a trumpeting. You wait, I'll cornet him." Alphonse hummed to himself in tune with the music coming from the seafront. As he drew level with the bandstand, the music suddenly stopped, and Alphonse saw, to his horror, a horde of red-coated frogs coming towards him, shouting and shaking their fists at him. Alphonse rode for all his worth towards the large house on the hill, spurred on by the threats of the Frog Band. When he reached the gates, he propped his bicycle up against the wall and entered the courtyard, to find himself in a monastery. The monks took no notice of him, so, after a quick check on the map, he darted toward the kitchen. Inside, the rather dismal Brother Borzoi was washing a pan. He looked up just in time to see a striped jumper disappear down his cellar steps. By this time, the Frog Band, still hot in pursuit of Alphonse, had invaded the courtyard. They stopped in awe when they saw the monks. "Where is he? Where is the onion seller?" demanded Johann S. Frog, the band leader. Father Abbot, not surprisingly, looked slightly blank. But just then Brother Borzoi came running out of the kitchen. "Do you mean a fellow in a striped jumper?" he asked Johann. "You'll find him in my cellar." "Follow me, frogs!" yelled Johann, and headed for the cellar steps. Meanwhile, Alphonse had produced a candle from under his jumper, and was following the old Duc de Buffle's plan. Left turn, down steps, 4 paces on, turn right, 6 steps. Now, 3 stones left from the ring in the wall, and push. With a hideous grating noise, the stone block swung out of the wall on rusty hinges. Shielding his candle from the sudden gush of air, Alphonse peered into the gloomy depths. He could just make out a stream of water running down the floor of the tunnel. On a ledge above the water level, there was an old iron-bound casket. "The treasure! I've found it!" gleefully whispered Alphonse, and he jumped through the hole, picked up the casket, and was just about to go back through to the cellar when he heard the angry voices and the scrambling feet of the approaching frogs. Losing no time, Alphonse waded along the tunnel, As he struggled through the water, he saw rusty handholds in the wall leading up to a bright circle of daylight. Dropping his candle, he clambered up to find himself on the top of the cliff, outside the monastery wall. Below him, Johann S. Frog and Brother Borzoi were looking into the secret opening. Silently they watched Alphonse's candle float by. "Bless his soul," murmured the monk with bowed head. "I think we need look no further." By now, Alphonse had made his way back to the gates and found his bicycle. He tied the casket to the carrier, and with a backward glance, pedaled furiously toward the pier and France. While Alphonse and the rest of the frog band had been playing hide-and-seek in the monastery, Shorty Frog was still laboring up the hill. "I wish the others would wait for me just once," he puffed as he clutched his tuba to him. Alphonse, on seeing yet another frog coming towards him, muttered, "Oh no, where do all these frogs come from?" and quickly headed off the road down a turning. But it was too late. Shorty had seen him and immediately found his voice. "I say, you fellows, over here! I've found him!" At the sound of his rallying blast on his tuba, the frog band poured out of the monastery gates, passing Shorty. "Wait for me!" cried Shorty. "Hey, wait!" Down the road went Alphonse, pedaling frantically, and down the road followed the frog band. At last Alphonse sighted the pier. "What luck!" he panted as he shot on down the hill. At the entrance to the pier he braked hard as two rats came across the road, carrying their upturned boat between them. "Help!" cried Alphonse. "What a time to find my brakes don't work! Get out of the way!" But the rats were too slow, and they watched open-mouthed as Alphonse and his bicycle hit the boat, shot up the sloping hull, and landed upright on the other side of the pier entrance. "Phew!" breathed Alphonse as he sped on to the end of the pier and shot over the edge, sending up a sheet of water. Johann S. Frog and the frog band arrived breathless at the pier, and joined the crowds looking on unbelievingly as a string of onions slowly floated to the surface. "Throw a lifebelt, someone! We may yet be able to save him," ordered Johann. Unconcerned, Alphonse swam strongly under water towards his submarine, clutching his bicycle and the precious casket. With his bicycle once again lashed to the top, he started the submarine's motor and surfaced. "Au revoir, my friends," he cried to the dumbfounded frogs. "Au revoir!" And with a wave of his beret, he steered his submarine towards the French coast. The frog band hauled in the lifebelt, still not sure how Alphonse had escaped, but glad he was alive. Back in the chateau, Alphonse wheeled his bicycle up the stairs to the Duc de Buffel's bedroom. The Duc hobbled forward excitedly and grasped the casket from the detective. With eager, shaking hands, he fitted the key into the lock. The poor Duke was horror-stricken as the lid flew open to reveal not priceless treasure, but worthless rubbish. Furious, the Duke rushed towards Alphonse, roaring, "You silly frog!" and kicked him out of the window. "Oh!" he yelled as he hit the bicycle with his bad foot, and he threw it after Alphonse out of the window. The unfortunate detective came round to find himself on the lawn with his bicycle, and was just recovering when, crash! the casket landed beside him. The bemused Alphonse suddenly shouted with glee as the casket cracked, the sides split, and onto the grass rolled 20 large gold coins. "We're rich, Alphonse!" yelled down the Duke from the window. "It's like a story! We can live happily ever after!"